Today's video is brought to you by Surfshark. So it's the month of December, and what does that mean? Non-specific holiday celebrations! We all have our holiday traditions. Some people go to church, some go door to door singing carols. The Japanese go to KFC, now that's one I can get down with. But perhaps one of the most common traditions is watching a holiday-themed movie or cartoon, whether it be a Charlie Brown Christmas, a Christmas Carol, or the better version in my opinion, a Muppets Christmas Carol. Now I've never really had any traditions, so I thought why not try to find one? But the question is, what do I choose? It'd have to be based off my interests obviously, so what have we got? I could watch all the South Park Christmas specials. Nah, South Park doesn't get me in a Christmassy mood. What about that awful Sonic Christmas short? Maybe another day. What else am I interested in? Have I ever told you guys how big a fan I am of Adam Sandler? What if I were to watch one Adam Sandler movie for 8 crazy nights? But I couldn't possibly indulge in this newly invented tradition myself, so I'll get some friends to watch with me, and use them to test whether or not people will be open to my genius idea. Now the final issue. Adam Sandler has starred in like a bazillion movies, how could I possibly choose just 8 to watch? Well, I did, here they are. I literally just looked up Adam Sandler movies and went, that one. As a kid, I was always exposed to Mr. Sandler. My family would put on his movies a lot, and at the time I loved them. I thought Adam was the peak of comedy. Only over time after being on the internet, I started to realize that him and his movies did not have the best reputation online, with most thinking they're low-tier trash that only entertains dumb people. But that can't be true. Can it? I loved movies like Grown Ups, Bedtime Stories, Jack and Jill. I'm sure that... Oh. Well, I guess we should start with one that I haven't seen before. Billy Madison was one of those films that I kept hearing about but never actually took the time to watch, so this was a good excuse to finally see what the fuss was about. It was one of those movies where one person would say it's amazing and another would say it's abysmal. I'm curious to see why the reception was so divisive. I completely understand why this movie was so divisive. Billy Madison is a 1995 movie about a 27-year-old spoiled rich man-child version of Adam Sandler. So it's a movie about Adam Sandler being the heir to his father's hotel chain. But after Billy ruins an important dinner, his father decides to give it to his vice president instead. Since he never technically got through school, Billy proposes that if he completes all 12 grades within 2 weeks, he gets to keep the company. My first reaction when finding this out was that it sounded like a sitcom plot and there was no way they could possibly stretch it out for 90 minutes. But they sure did manage to stretch it out. Right off the bat I could see why so many people hate this movie.
Stop looking at me, Swan!
In this film, Adam Sandler is purposely trying to be as annoying as possible, and he succeeds with flying colours. Now, before all you Billy Madison fans jump down my throat, I ain't saying that's a bad thing. If you've looked through this channel for more than 5 seconds, you'd know that I have a great affection for movies that don't treat themselves seriously, and aim to do nothing but be really dumb. And this is the perfect example of that. Adam is so committed to playing this grown man who acts like a child, and I love it. His line delivery alone catches me off guard, and even if it mostly relies on being dumb, it still has some moments that I think are genuinely hilarious. Although there are a ton of jokes that have some creepy undertones. Adam wrote that. The biggest impact it had on me though was watching this scene and going, oh my god, that's where that audio from that old Flash cartoon I used to watch as a kid came from.
Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis is the best video game ever. Mortal Kombat.
Shut up!
It helps a ton that the movie is incredibly fast paced with it constantly hitting you with jokes. And I wouldn't normally say that having a formulaic plot is a good thing, but it definitely helps in this place with the movie going like, grade, party, next grade, another party, another grade, next party. It allows them to entirely focus on the comedy with the story serving as a way to get Adam into funny settings. Although a part of me wonders if that was intentional or not because there are plenty of times when the movie tries to have a heart and take things seriously for a moment. It almost exclusively comes from his love interest, who was one of his teachers in an early grade. And it just left me confused, because we're given no reason for why she even likes him other than him pretending to pee himself. I think it would have been way funnier if he kept trying to get with her for the whole movie, and it ended with her still thinking he was a brain-dead loser. But I get it, you gotta pull at those heartstrings. The main issue I have with the movie isn't even a problem with the film itself, more so everything that came after it. This movie has a lot of jokes at the expense of the less fortunate, a predictable love story, and featuring a ton of Adam's friends like frickin' Steve Buscemi, which are all huge complaints I hear a lot about his later movies, which doesn't give me much hope for the rest of this list. But that shouldn't affect my opinion on this film. You gotta look at it as its own thing. And as its own thing, I can honestly say that I thought this movie was incredibly charming and fun. I wouldn't necessarily call it a great movie, but for what it was, I had fun with it. So far this is going pretty well. What have we got next? Oh, right. Bedtime Stories is an Adam Sandler movie made by Disney. That should already set off some red flags, but let's continue. The film revolves around Skeeter being the heir to his father's hotel wait a minute! Alright movie, I'ma let it slide for now, but you're on thin ice already. The owner plans on opening a new hotel and needs to appoint a manager, so Skeeter needs to prove himself that he can be a good one, while a co-worker high up in the chain than him also tries to get the position. Okay, so we've got the plot of Billy Madison again, just with a little bit of SpongeBob movie thrown in. But it's called Bedtime Stories for a reason, and that's because Skeeter is taking care of his niece and nephew. And when they ask for a bedtime story and he tells them one, whatever the kids say happens in the story happens in real life. Why does only the kids' stories come true? A child's sense of wonder or whatever, who cares? Why do the stories come true in the first place? I don't know, writing movies are hard. So this means that throughout the movie we get to watch a random cliched trope play out from the kids, like a western, a space theme, etc. Then watch that exact same scene again, but this time in real life. It gets somewhat interesting, and that's a big somewhat. Later on when Skeeter has to try and figure out how these wacky shenanigans will play out in real life, like when the kids say he burns to death in a story, he freaks out and takes great measures to avoid fire, only for it to be a self-fulfilling prophecy when this paranoia causes him to get fired from his job. From a character standpoint, it does a good job at showing how petty our main guy is, with him only really wanting to hang out with his niece and nephew so he can vent to them and get something out of them. When they get sick of him and just go to sleep, he literally shouts in their faces. Like, so far I'm noticing Adam does not really do a good job at playing the good guy.
We thought you were supposed to be the good guy.
With it being a Disney film, it's obviously a whole lot tamer than Adam's usual films, which means it's missing a lot of Sandler's trademarked "you're funny because you're different" jokes. Although they still did manage to shove in another pointless love interest. You can't go wrong with one of those. But even then, you can definitely tell this was targeted towards kids, with a silly comic relief CG guinea pig, and Adam having a wacky sidekick Russell Brand. Remember when he was a thing? And ultimately, I think this was the film's greatest downfall. Sure, I can appreciate how much work they put into these sets and the actors are all clearly trying their best, but this movie is so boring. It feels like I'm watching a series of low-budget SNL skits loosely tied together by a plot about hotel management. Not even they were confident enough in the idea, so they had to shove in like 4 other plots about Adam's sister and his love interest in hotels, and we gotta save the rec center suddenly. You'd think with all these stories it would keep it somewhat interesting, but it's just a mess and not a fun one. My friend literally fell asleep around 20 minutes in, and I think that should be enough proof of this film's entertainment value. Either way, if you for some reason want to watch this movie, I'd recommend just pirating it.
For free!
This was a movie that I'd previously not really heard about before watching it, so I had absolutely no expectations for it. And you know what? It was awesome. Click is about Adam Sandler living his best life. He's got a nice job, big house, a wife and kids, but it's an Adam Sandler film, so he's just gotta have that promotion. Eventually Adam is given a remote control from a shady guy in a department store. Turns out this remote is magical and can allow Adam to use its features in real life, like pausing, rewinding, etc. Again, sitcom plot. In fact, I see this plot done all the time in cartoons. But they somehow managed to stretch it out for a whole movie, and I gotta give them props, they kept me thoroughly entertained the whole time. It starts kinda tame with Adam doing regular stuff you'd expect from a story like this, pausing people around him, fast forwarding through situations he doesn't want to experience. But it starts to get interesting when it turns out that the remote automatically adapts to his preferences. So for example, if he skips through an argument with his wife, the remote will automatically skip through all their arguments. He finds out that while he's been fast forwarding through situations, he turns into a brain dead zombie. And this is where the movie takes a dark turn with Adam quickly fast forwarding through his entire life. And he realizes that eventually his dad has died, he got divorced, and eventually until he's on his deathbed. And it's got a super serious tone without a hint of comedy, I love it. It completely comes out of left field, like, wow, Adam Sandler just got a magic remote. What wacky shenanigans is he gonna get in this time? He died. It's another one of those movies where I can just turn my mind off and have a grand old time. And I know some of you out there will say if you want to review this stuff then you should look at it from an objective standpoint. But the point of this marathon is to have fun, and boy did Click deliver plenty of it. As a movie, sure, it's not great. Kids acting is bad, the camera work isn't interesting at all, the jokes can be really childish, but again, all I expect out of an Adam Sandler comedy is dumb fun. And this movie is dumb fun. I can definitely see why people wouldn't like this movie though. If there's something I can say so far after watching these first few films, it's that Sandler's movies are definitely an acquired taste. And by acquired, I mean it's the kind of thing that you'd enjoy before getting good tastes. Other than the fact that I think it goes on for a little too long, I'm starting to get why his films are usually under 90 minutes, there's only so much Adam one can take at a time. My only real complaint about this film is that it ends with everything turning out okay, and Adam learns that in life he's gotta take the good with the bad, and should just accept that it's not all gonna be sunshine and rainbows. I'm not gonna lie, kinda wish it ended with Adam dying. I'm just saying it would have been a lot more interesting. But overall, Click was a ton of fun. I'm struggling to see why Adam Sandler is hated so much. Little Nicky is about Nicky, a quiet, timid boy who just so happens to be the son of Satan. I didn't know this was a documentary about Adam, am I right, guys? But this sure is an interesting concept. I'm curious to see what they did with it. So Satan is thinking about retiring and is about to choose which of his sons he wants to promote. It's just the same story. Oh, wait. It turns out that Satan wants to stay as the ruler of hell for another 10,000 years. You're very lucky, movie, I swear to God. This angers his brothers and they go through a portal to the real world to wreak havoc. So Nicky is tasked with getting them before his dad dies. That's a neat idea, at least compared to his other films. And by that I mean this one actually seems like the plot of a movie and not a cheap TV sitcom. It's also neat seeing Adam not trying to play Adam. In each of these films it seems like he wants to play the loud, wisecracking cool uncle kind of character. But in this he's very pulled back and plays the fish out of water character. He even puts on a different voice for the entire movie.
What are you doing, Nicky?
I'm just jamming.
Yeah, Father wants to see you and your brothers down in the throne room.
He's not retiring today, is he?
The voice is completely obnoxious, but hey, he's trying. The sets in this movie are also really unique. It doesn't just take place in Adam's big house, which I'm guessing is just his real house they thought would be cheaper to use. The way hell looks in my opinion is a really cool depiction of it. I wish more of the movie took place in there. It's definitely more focused on being a fish out of water story. Despite all these unique ideas, it still falls into the usual Sandler traps. You get the drill, comic relief sidekick, which in this case is a talking demon dog, and another pointless love interest who has no business in liking him. It's gotten to a point where me and my friends were just waiting for these slots to be filled. You could probably make an Adam Sandler bingo sheet out of these. I also feel like they didn't have enough ideas for making this movie length, so we have a ton of random scenes that don't further the plot at all, like they talk about Popeye's chicken for an absurd amount of time, like 3 points in the movie. There's also this one scene that pointlessly takes place during a basketball match. I'd like to think Adam was just taking his family to see one and he was like, oh hey, we could shoot a scene here that can fill up some time, I've got the camera right here. It makes up for this with the cast of characters all being pretty likable. I like Nicky's roommate, his two edgy stoner friends, and even the love interest. I'm surprised because it's the first of these movies where I actually cared about what happens to these guys, which they then spit on my face with the conflict being resolved through a goddamn reference. I know my test subjects weren't that into it, but I thought this movie was alright. It's not good, and I won't lie and say Adam's voice doesn't make the film unbearable at times, but I think it's one of those movies that I appreciate a lot more than I actually like. I wasn't expecting this level of creativity from one of these films, and you can definitely tell that everyone involved is trying. Even all Adam's SNL friends who once again are here for random cameos. But I hope Adam is able to keep up this level of creativity in his later films. What have we got next? I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. I hated this film when it came out. I didn't want to admit it at the time, but I thought it sucked. If a 13-year-old thinks that your movie about video games suck, then you know it sucks, because I ate anything up back then. And judging by my thoughts on these films so far, I'll still eat anything up. Anything but Pixels. Pixels is a film about Adam Sandler stuck in a dead-end job after losing a Donkey Kong competition as a child. Footage of this competition was sent up to space, and instead of the aliens going,
"Whoa bro, this is a sick Pac-Man, let's play,"
they took it as a challenge, and now Adam and friends must join the military to get back the trophies that were taken, and defeat the aliens at 3 different arcade games brought to life. Along the way he reconnects with his old rival from the competition, his wacky comic relief sidekick Josh Gad, and once again, say it with me now, has a pointless love interest. I would accept all of this, I'm able to push my sense of belief to a certain extent, but the one part I cannot accept is that Kevin James, aka Paul Blart, plays the President of the United States of America. Was this in and of itself supposed to be the joke? Because it's not funny, it's just baffling. This plot screams laziness, and them just trying to make things as easy as possible for themselves. Why does Adam get to be in the military? His friend is the president. Why does Adam give up on all his hopes and dreams? He lost one video game contest as a kid. How does the love interest fit into this plot? Adam was just gonna fix her TV. Well, get this? She also works for the government. Genius. Not even the rules that they themselves set up in universe make sense. Like, it establishes early on that Josh Gad is in love with this arcade game lady, so of course that means she shows up later. But when she does, she's pixely like everyone else for like a second, but then turns into a real lady? What? And not only that, Josh confesses his love to her, and instead of chopping off his head like she's programmed to do, she for no reason joins his side? Did they care? At all? Then after their win, she gets sent back up to the spaceship, but then to make him feel better, Hubert, who they gotta keep as a trophy, turns into the woman permanently. They acknowledge how dumb this is, they knew what they were doing.
But no one else is weirded out by this? That was just Hubert.
The worst thing though, and the only part I remembered about this movie when I first saw it, was when Adam and gang were using ghost cars to chase down Pac-Man. Initially I thought, oh, this is an awesome idea, they have to play the enemies. But then Peter Dinklage, get this, uses a cheat code on his car to move faster around the place. Then when he's called out, he also claims he used it back against Adam in the competition from when he was a kid. I guess when writing this, Adam thought the audience's reaction would be, whoa, he cheated? That means Adam is the Donkey Kong champion. Instead, the audience's reaction was, what? How does someone use cheat codes in a car? Did he use the steering wheel as a D-pad? Because in my experiences, that's hard as hell to control. It's easy, just steer left, right, brake, horn, then stick your finger in the cigarette lighter, and your car can now turn invisible. Try it at home, kids. If I, a 13-year-old, could look at something in your movie and go, that's dumb, then you really messed up. And I know what you're thinking. Mark, didn't you like the other movies for being dumb? But it's different because those movies managed to be dumb in a way that still made sense within their world and was able to be charming with it. Well, this movie directly contradicts its own rules at multiple points, and I doubt it was intentional. It seems like Adam just thought having so many iconic characters and trailers and posters would be enough for people to want to see this movie. And you know what? He was right. That Adam Sandler, I tell you what, everyone always tries to pass him off as some talentless hack, but I think he knows very well what he's doing, and that makes him pretty clever in my books. Here's a fun fact. Adam didn't even really come up with the idea for this film. It was actually based off a short which I saw as a kid and thought, whoa, this would make a great movie. It didn't make a great movie. I would rather pay for a movie ticket to see this 2-minute short rather than this $90 million film. At least this short didn't imply that Josh Gad got it on with Hubert. I gotta give credit where credit is due though, the special effects in this movie are stunning. The bright, colourful, pixelated characters are a joy to see. It's just a shame that between these short scenes of them fighting video game characters, we get 15 to 20 minute segments of Adam talking about his marital problems. I came here for Pac-Man, but all I saw was Adam Sandler. Grown Ups 2 has to be one of the most nothing movies I've ever seen in my entire life. It starts off with a perfect representation of you as an audience member. This movie is like having Adam Sandler piss on your face. Again, I picked these at random, so we're skipping the first Grown Ups movie. I saw it as a kid plenty of times, so I'll fill you in on what you missed. Did you get all that? Alright, great, moving on. I don't know how to describe the plot of this movie at all. It's like someone took 5 episodes of a sitcom and played them one after the other. First, we've got a plot about Adam's wife wanting another baby. Then his daughter needs a new doll. Then he meets with his SNL friends, Paul Blart, Marty from Madagascar, and David Spade, where it's decided he should throw a party that night. We also get a plot about a group of these college guys trying to get Adam and friends. There's also another plot about a woman trying to get with Adam. And also his son gets a job and tries to impress his crush. His other son is dealing with a bully at school, and also wants to try out for football, in a plotline that literally starts and ends in the same 5-minute scene. Marty's son is trying to get his license. His daughter is dating a rapper, but she also wants to sing. Paul Blart is trying not to get caught by his wife, staying at his mother's house. David Spade's intimidating son comes to live with him, so now he has to deal with it. Can I stop now? I could go on, there's like 10 other plots I haven't mentioned, but I think I got the point across. They clearly had no clue what they wanted to do with this movie, other than make money. Adam Sandler is an extremely successful and wealthy man with a big house, hot wife, and is a great basketball player, and he wants to throw a party with his friends, and so decided he would roll the cameras while setting it up. That's what happened with this movie, and nothing you say will convince me otherwise. As each film goes on, it gets more and more apparent that they're just excuses for Adam and friends to hang out and get paid. It's not targeted towards kids, which means we're back to getting our recommended dose of jokes. Well, let's be honest and call them what they really are. Insults towards those who are different. It's just not a Happy Madison film without them. The only plus I got out of this was that I absolutely adore cringy, unfunny dialogue, and this film is full of it.
Put your hands in the air. And wave them like you just don't care. Say ho! Say ho!
I'm gonna be real with you for a sec. There's nothing more I can say about this film. It's not worth getting angry about, but I would never ever recommend watching it, even as a so bad it's good movie. We're almost done this, what's next? Now here we are. This is the movie I see used as the prime example when I hear people mention how bad Adam Sandler is. Were they overreacting? I wish they were. I really do. I have never seen a film be so blatant and in your face about its laziness. Adam Sandler is a successful ad executive with a big house and hot wife. He's got everything he could ever need. But that's when Jill comes around for Thanksgiving, and now Adam's gonna learn that being a twin isn't so easy.
Adam Sandler's funny.
So yeah, Adam has to get Al Pacino in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial or his advertising agency is gonna go bankrupt. Then his twin Jill comes to bother him. Eventually the two plots seamlessly intertwine, with Al Pacino falling in love with Jill. So Adam has to keep his sister around in order to get him to do the commercial. I wanna be mad, but I can't help but be baffled that Adam somehow managed to get away with making the main plot of his film revolve around product placement. You know from the second that tray of Pepto-Bismol rolls on screen that you're in for a treat. And the product placement train doesn't stop there. We've got Coke, Sony Vaio. There are, no joke, 2 full-on commercials in the film. One is used as an establishing scene for Royal Caribbean, and the other is the ending to the movie.
Everyone wants my Dunkachino. Can't get enough of my Dunkachino. Kids from 7 to 17 lining up for my Dunkachino.
That's like genius from a business standpoint. And if there's something I've learned from watching these movies, it's that Adam makes a much better businessman than movie maker. Anyways, let's go through the usual checklist. Hot wife, yup. Big house, correct. Product placement, plenty of it. Jokes at those who are different, we've got it in spades. A basketball scene? Yep, there it is. I hereby declare this the most Adam Sandleriest Adam Sandler movie of them all. To talk about Jill for a second, I suppose it's at least a little bit commendable for him to task himself with playing 2 characters at the same time, but you can definitely see where they cut corners with it. Jack and Jill are more often than not standing very far away from each other, which means they can easily crop the screen to make them both seem like they're there together. Or even the easier way of using a shot reverse shot, so no cropping is needed at all. Like Adam, I know you think that the idea of you playing 2 characters is great and all, but you actually have to, do something creative with it. Or maybe you don't, because the film made $200 million anyway and Adam got a free cruise out of it, so what do I know? But Jill is just such an annoying character. She's portrayed as lazy, unhealthy, unhygienic, whiny, yet everyone around seems to like her and wants her to stay. I genuinely didn't know if I was supposed to be rooting for Adam or think he was the bad guy throughout this. This movie did make an amazing achievement though, being that it managed to be the shortest Adam Sandler movie yet still managing to feel like it goes on for an eternity. I know that the runtime says 90 minutes, but I don't know if I want to count the 20 minutes at the start and end that's just twins casually talking to each other about twin stuff.
I'm older by 10 minutes because she had an umbilical cord wrapped around her neck and she shoved me in there. And I was kicking her in, shoving her more in, my mom. She's always been a pound heavier. No.
Anyways, we're almost done with this. What's the last film I gotta watch?
Christmas is right around.
I am so damn shocked by this movie. Not only should this film never have been made, but I have no clue why anyone thought it would be a good movie. And I somehow managed to adore it. 8 Crazy Nights is an animated Hanukkah movie about Davy, a troubled delinquent, who before being sent to jail is offered a second chance by an old man who taught him basketball when he was a kid. Whitey. Wait, Whitey? Where have I heard? Oh my god. Does this mean Whitey was the basketball coach from Little Nicky? And this hobo from 8 Crazy Nights looks a lot like the hobo from Jack and Jill. The Sandler cinematic universe is a rabbit hole that I don't think I need to go into right now. The film is about Whitey trying to clean up Davy's act by getting him to volunteer at the youth basketball center. Call it a hunch, but at this point I think Adam may have wanted to be a basketball player as a kid, judging by how many of his movies involve it. During this we also start finding out what made him the way he is, and sure you can call it forced emotion, but for some reason I don't mind it here, it feels somewhat genuine. Davy is a really mean-spirited character, and while it doesn't work in most of Sandler's films, I'm actually not bothered by it here. 1, because he's constantly reprimanded for his actions, and 2, it's animated. And might I add, it is animated really well. Like, really, really well. It was done by the same studio that animated Iron Giant, which should be obvious when you look at the kids. But it's so fluid and the backgrounds are great. Well, except this one that looks like one of those graphic design is my passion memes. But the animation really enhances the more cartoony aspects of Adam's films, and it works in its benefit greatly. I can laugh when Whitey is pushed down a giant hill, but I don't know, I just don't see it being as funny if it were a real old man. It also allows them to be a lot more creative with the musical numbers. That's right, this is an Adam Sandler musical, and it works so well. Why does it work so well? To be fair, he's got a pretty good singing voice, along with his wife who plays the love interest this time. I'm just waiting for the day Adam has like 20 kids so they can just play all the roles in his films for absolute profit maximization. And I know a lot of people hate Adam's voice for Whitey, but I can't help but love him, he's just so likable. Listen to him sing! How could you hate this guy? The music itself is actually really good. I've happily listened to them on their own, and got them stuck in my head for ages after watching. I think I've got a bit of an unhealthy obsession with this movie. I'll be fair though, it does have some negatives. Like, I really didn't think it was that funny outside of the ironic sense. It's an Adam Sandler movie, so you know what to expect. But occasionally a character will come out with a funny line that catches me off guard. And when it's funny, it's really funny.
Huh? Ah! Whitey, thank God you're here! We're being robbed by a lunatic! Mister, if you're gonna kill us, take off your wet shoes! They're soaking the carpet!
And even some of the usual Sandler traps, trademarked, manage to be so absurd to the point where it becomes funny.
My buddy Mr. Footlocker will warm your feet. Hello, Sharp Image. The Tie Rack, GNC, Radio Shack, Sbarro's, Dunkin' Donuts, they're simply the best. And don't forget the orange chicken at Panda Express.
Like, this is just so apparent to the point of being hilarious. It's a plot point later on that the mall mascots come to life and go all commentary avatar on Davy. How could you possibly be so shameless? By the way, let me tell you, if you're looking for a VPN out there, then I'd like to recommend Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable. Surfshark encrypts all internet data sent to and from your devices and ensures that your IP address remains hidden to make sure that nobody can see what you're doing online. On top of that, they block ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts. And unlike other VPN services, you can use it on as many devices as you'd like simultaneously. Living in Ireland, I find it incredibly useful in increasing browser speed. If you feel that your internet is too slow, you can use Surfshark to quicken the connection. And if you're a fan of South Park like me and live in the UK, then you'd know that South Park Studios, which allows you to watch any episode you want at any time, isn't available in the UK. But with Surfshark, you can change your country to anywhere you want and stream all the South Park episodes you want like I've been doing. It even encrypts your personal information, making it so you can't be tracked. You wouldn't want people knowing you watch Adam Sandler movies, would you? Please, Judge, I'm innocent, you gotta believe me! Your story checks out, but the government was tracking you, and it says you like to watch Adam Sandler films. 50 years in the dungeon! No! Do you want this to happen to you? Of course not. So click on the link in the description below, or go to surfshark.deal/Whitey to sign up for 83% off a 2-year plan, including 3 months absolutely free.
Wow, Mark. That deal is even better than the orange chicken at the Panda Express.
It sure is, Whitey. So what are you waiting for? Check out Surfshark if you want a great VPN service, or even just if you want to help support the channel. So here we are. We got through our 8 crazy nights of Adam Sandler movies, and had a great time doing so. Sure, while not every movie was stellar, some might say are downright terrible, but I think those few diamonds in the rough such as Billy Madison, Click, and especially 8 Crazy Nights made it all worthwhile. And through this experience I can safely say that Adam Sandler is an extremely talented actor. Problem is he just doesn't give a crap most of the time. Finally, let's see what my test subjects thought of my new tradition.
Don't talk to me ever again. I hate you.
All I feel is agony.
So yeah, I'd consider this an absolute win.